gorgeous, welcome back to the makeup aisle. Today's video is going to be about brushes. This is because of a request that my cousin had. She's like, do a video on brushes. I need to know what to use and how to use them. So hey Jam, if you're watching, this video is for you, darling. The first one I'm going to start with is concealer brush, because a lot of us for the most part may start with concealer and corrector first. So the one I use is from Beauty 360. And this is called the foundation brush, which is obviously too small for foundation. The way I use it is with either like my Bobbi Brown corrector, where you see it's a pan. So instead of sticking my fingers in there, I'll use the brush to go in there and to apply it to my under eye and the spots where I need it exactly. I also use it with my NYX Dark Circle corrector. Same thing, instead of dipping my finger in there, I'm going to go in with the brush, you know, pick up the product and then put the product where I want it. And what I do actually, instead of spreading it so that you don't get lines, I just tap and kind of press the product where I want it. And then what I do is I go in with my Real Technique sponge, which I actually just talked about in my May favorites, and then I will go ahead and blend that in. So a brush like that, something kind of straight, you know, kind of flat and dense like that, I think for me tends to work well. And it doesn't have to be this brand. I'm just showing you the brushes that I have and that I've purchased from different companies. I use drugstore, I use high-end, so you know, whatever works for you as far as pricing and how you like the brushes is what's going to work for you. This is just the brush that I tend to use. I just feel it picks up the product really nicely, small enough so you know you don't have half of the brush hanging out of like the pot or the well of whatever you're using. And I feel that because it's so small, it really does a great job just getting into that area, especially with my under eye, or I have like a little discoloration here, I'll get right onto that area. So moving on to foundation brush, whether it be liquid or powder. I have three brushes here that I tend to use for liquid. One is for liquid and two are for powder, and I also use one of those for bronzing. So the first one I have here is a Tarte double-ended brush. I actually got this with the Rainforest of the Sea foundation when it came out QVC, like really months ago. It actually came out in QVC before it came out to the masses, like in Sephora and all that stuff. So this has quickly become my absolute favorite foundation brush. I know a lot of people like the Sigma F80, I believe, Kabuki brush. I saw no need to even go about purchasing that after I had this. It is very flat, which is really nice, extremely dense, holds its shape very well. And then you have a smaller brush here, which is on an angle, so it's really good for getting kind of into the nose area or any areas like under the eye where you feel you just need a little more control and a little bit of a smaller brush. Again, if you have not tried Tarte brushes, you know, across the gamut, I just love Tarte brushes. They're so thick, so dense, packed so beautifully that it's just absolutely wonderful. So for me, this is the foundation brush that I like to use for any liquid or cream. The next two brushes that I have are from BH Cosmetics. I bought a brush set from them some time ago, probably about 6 months ago, and it was on sale, so I decided to buy it. It had face brushes and also eye brushes, and they had quickly become, after I started using it, one of my favorite brushes, hands down, to use. They are extremely soft and just work beautifully. These are the way these brushes look. So the one I have here, which is like the flat top, is 116, and this one that's a little more rounded on the top there is 113. So the 116 is very soft, very nice. The only thing for me, and the reason why I don't use this for liquid foundation, is because it's not dense enough. It's very soft, which is great, but it's not like packed, let's say, like this. As you can see, it's a little tighter, it's just a little thicker. So for me, it's a little harder, not harder on the skin, but just where it's going to hold its shape better while you're putting on cream or liquid foundation. This one I use for my powder foundation. It works amazingly, just beautifully, and I really do love it. Again, it's really soft across the top. You probably saw like some powder flying because I just used this. So again, this is by BH Cosmetics, and this is the 116. But any brush like this where it's really soft, you know, like a flat top or even a rounded top, you could also use this one. I love this one with my mineral powder foundation. Now the 113 that I was talking about, it has the rounded top, but again, really nicely packed, beautiful and soft. I use this for bronzing. I love it because it is so soft, and it is, you know, a bigger brush, so you can get nicely in that area and bring it down into the cheeks and over here on the bottom of the chin. I've used this, like I said, for bronzing, and just found that hands down it works beautifully. Again, the BH Cosmetics brushes have really impressed me. They're very really inexpensive, so you don't know really what you're going to get and how it's going to really stand up to brushes that have been tried and true, that people have used a lot, that people talk about a lot. But I'm absolutely loving them, and I use them on a daily basis. So I'm going to move on now to under eye setting brush that actually started out as a blush brush, and then I love the way it kind of set the under eye because of the shape of it, and then also a blush brush that has the same shape, but I tend to use for blush. So the first one is my MAC 168 brush. I was using this for blush just because I like an angled top on a brush for my blush better, because it just tends to get into the apples of the cheeks really nicely. And then after a while, I'm like, I think it was one day I didn't have the brush that I needed, and I needed to put banana powder under my eyes, so I'm like, oh, I'll just use this brush, and I love it. So now this brush, instead of being my blush brush, is the brush that I tend to put on powder under my eyes to set my concealer. I love it again because it's slanted, and so when you get under in that area, it just works perfectly to kind of get in the inner corner and also then on the top. And it's small enough so that it's not like there's powder and a brush in your eye when you're trying to set that concealer. I love this brush. Definite recommend. They're not cheap. I don't remember how much this was, but it's a great brush. I love it. But again, anything that has that slant to set your under eye concealer with powder is going to work just fine. Just make sure it's really soft, really nice, keeps its shape. For any brush, that's really what you want to look at. If you're washing it, are there just like brush bristles everywhere, just, you know, where you have more bristles in the sink than left in your brush? You know, those are some of the things to look for that make a good brush. They don't shed, they keep their shape really nicely, they're not all over the place, and obviously that they work for what you need. So the brush that actually took the place of the MAC 168 as my blush brush is the Morphe E4, and this is from their Elite collection. I had seen a video by Jaclyn Hill, actually a lot of videos by Jaclyn Hill, where she was singing the praises of this brush. And so I said, well, let me try it, because again, I do like brushes that are on a slant for blush. I just think they fit in onto the apples of the cheeks so much nicer than just maybe like a flat brush or just a straight on rounded brush. I love this brush. In fact, this is a brand new one because they had, I think, like a flash sale of 50% off. It's very soft, holds its shape extremely well. Like I said, I have one that I've been using, wow, maybe for like 5 or 6 months now, I think. And every time I wash it, it washes clean. It's not shedding everywhere and just kind of snaps back to the original shape. So this is a brush that I would recommend. It is, you know, not an expensive brush. I really do like the brushes that Morphe puts out. Haven't really had any complaints with them, whether it be face brush or eye brush. This is a really good brand. So moving on now to contouring. I have 2 brushes here that I really love. I do not contour on a daily basis. These 2 brushes here, I have one by e.l.f., which is the contour brush, and then I have another Tarte brush. So starting with the e.l.f. brush, first of all, this is $6. $6, and I absolutely love this brush. This is my second one. I have one that I use, and this is the backup. So you see how it's just straight and very skinny, very nice and thin. It's very soft, very densely packed, which is really nice, but not hard at all. You know, the bristles can be moved. So the reason why I like this brush is because it is so thin. You get right into the hollows of the cheeks where you need to apply that contour. I do not like just a straight line of contour, so what I tend to do is put it where it's supposed to go, get my placement right, and then just kind of move it up a little bit so it blends it out, so it's not just one straight line. And after I'm done with that, what I tend to do is look in the mirror, and you can actually see the hollows of your cheeks or where the contour is. So then I'll go in and just, you know, straight on looking at the mirror, just kind of fix the contour a bit if I need to, and just blend it out a little more. I'm just not one for harsh contour. But again, the e.l.f. brush, this one I'm just going to say just get this one. It's $6. There's other contour brushes out there that look exactly like this one, literally exactly like this one, and they're like 20, 30 bucks. There's no reason in hell to spend that much money when you can spend $6. So the Tarte brush that you see here, I actually got with a bronzer on QVC, and I probably have had this brush now for a little over a year. Again, as with any Tarte brush, it's just really thick, really dense, but really, really soft. I use this for bronzer as well sometimes because, as you can see, it's really wide so I can get into the space nicely. But when I want a soft contour and don't feel like doing using the e.l.f. brush, I will get this brush with the contour and then go ahead and contour. The fact, because it's so thick like out, and it's just, as you can see the difference, it's not as thin as the e.l.f. brush, you're going to get a more blended out contour right off the bat where you're not having to really kind of blend it out. I always do anyway, and actually while I'm applying with this brush specifically, I tend to blend out the contour as I am going along. So this brush for that works very well because it's very thin down, even though it's thick, but it's just, you know, it gives you the perfect brush to get also into the hollows of the cheeks to make sure that the contour is in the right place. So I know Tarte sells a lot of different brushes. I'm gonna assume that they probably have something out there like this, but in any case, something like this, if you want a softer contour, would work. It doesn't have to be Tarte, but just that shape, as you can see there, I think would be really nice to give a really soft contour, because a lot of people are scared to contour, I think, because you see the Instagram contour and it literally looks like you have like a line of dark, you know, down your cheeks, and a lot of people don't like that, but would still like the effects of a contour because it does tend to thin out the face. This is a great brush to do that because you're not going to get a harsh line. It's going to be really nice and blended out. The last two brushes I have are for highlighting. There are so many brushes on the market to highlight, and you can actually use other brushes that aren't meant for highlighting to highlight. One of the first brushes I have here is the Smashbox fan brush, and yeah, it doesn't necessarily say what it's for, but I got it with one of their halo blushes, which this works really nicely for blush. Again, you could use it for what it was meant for because you get a really soft smattering of blush just beautifully on the cheeks, so you get a really nice soft glow. Lately, a lot of people have been using fan brushes to highlight, which really, if you think about it, is pretty genius because, again, this brush, very thin, and then really wide over here, so you kind of just put it where you want the highlight and just kind of fan back and forth, and this is really going to highlight the cheeks well. So this is really like a dual purpose brush. You can use it for blush if you want. I tend to now use it for highlighting, which I really do like the way it works. Highlight, I think, is beautiful. I tend to highlight very lightly, just enough to give a beautiful sheen. The second brush I have is the Morphe M501. A lot of people love this brush. Again, this was a brush that was recommended by Jaclyn Hill. So I thought, well, let me try it, because I don't believe at the time when I first started I was highlighting. And she was highlighting with this brush, and I said, well, let me give it a go. It is a fantastic brush to use as a highlight brush. Also, too, because it is so small, you can use it for setting your under eye concealer with powder if you so choose. That absolutely would be perfect because it is so small. It's going to get into where you need it to get without, again, having a brush or a product in your eye. This for highlighting, you know, you just put it where you need to and just kind of brush where you need it. I will go down the slope of my nose. I do it for the Cupid's bow and also on my chin as well. Again, this is the Morphe M501, but any brush that looks like this would also work. These are not too expensive, to be honest, so I wouldn't not say don't buy it from Morphe. But if you have a brush like this and it's like, well, what the hell am I going to use it for? Give it a go for highlighting. It really might work for you. Well, that does it for going through face brushes. I hope you have learned a little something. If you have any tips and tricks that I didn't mention or that you know or that you were surprised to find out, please leave them in the comments below. Please subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next one. Bye.